D4vd and Aria Kent were the kind of duo everyone admired. Two brilliant artists drawn together by creativity and destroyed by something no one could explain. When Aria was found dead in her apartment just days after working with D4vd, the world turned its gaze on him, demanding answers he never gave. No witnesses, no confession, no arrest, only silence, secrets, and a mystery that refused to fade. The summer of 2024 shimmered with bright lights and rising fame for D4vd, a young artist whose name had become a symbol of mystery and melancholy. His music carried an emotion that felt too real to be crafted, and fans across the world connected with his haunting voice and poetic lyrics. Every performance felt like a confession, every video a secret message. The world saw him as a quiet genius, a modern-day enigma who spoke little but expressed everything through sound. Behind the curtain, though, a darker story was forming, one that would soon place his name at the center of a chilling investigation. On July 18th, everything changed. At 7:45 in the morning, Los Angeles police received a welfare call from neighbors who hadn't seen 25-year-old digital artist Aria Kent in 2 days. She was known for her vivid, surreal artwork that had recently caught the attention of several musicians, including D4vd. When officers entered her apartment, they found her lifeless on the floor of her studio, surrounded by canvases splashed with streaks of unfinished color. The scene was strangely calm. No forced entry, no clear signs of struggle. Her phone lay on the table, still charging. The only sound was the faint hum of an air purifier in the corner. The discovery sent shock waves through the art and music communities. Aria wasn't just an emerging artist. She was rumored to be collaborating with D4vd on a new visual concept for his upcoming album. The two had been spotted together at events, though neither ever confirmed their partnership publicly. Her final social media post, uploaded 3 days before her death, only deepened the intrigue. It showed her backstage at one of D4vd's concerts, a dimly lit photo where his silhouette appeared faintly behind her. The caption read, "Sometimes silence says everything." Within hours of her death being reported, that caption became the center of endless speculation online. When news outlets began connecting Aria's death to D4vd, the response was immediate and chaotic. Fans flooded his accounts with messages, demanding answers. Some defended him fiercely, claiming he was incapable of harm. Others began pulling apart his lyrics and music videos, convinced they contained hidden meanings. A few pointed to the reclusive nature of his personality, describing it as artistic detachment, while others saw it as something colder. Meanwhile, police launched a quiet but thorough investigation. Detectives discovered that D4vd had been one of the last people to see Aria alive. Security logs showed his car parked near her apartment complex late on the night of July 15th. He was brought in for questioning, and although he cooperated, his responses only fueled curiosity. He stated that they had met to discuss creative. As the weeks passed, the investigation slowed, but the internet sped up. Every corner of social media filled with speculation about what really happened to Aria Kent. People who had never met her spoke about her like an old friend, while those who barely knew D4vd claimed to understand his every move. The case became an obsession. Fans and amateur detectives began creating timelines, piecing together what they believed was a pattern of guilt hidden within his music and visuals. Every lyric, every deleted post, every public appearance was analyzed as if it were a clue. A Reddit thread titled "The Silent Confession" became the largest online community devoted to the mystery. Thousands of users picked apart his songs, pointing out recurring images of water, silence, and vanishing figures. In one of his recent music videos, he was seen walking through an empty apartment, touching walls painted the same color as Aria's studio. Many took that as proof that he was trying to tell the world something without saying it directly. Even small details, like the time he uploaded his last photo before going offline, were treated as evidence. As speculation grew, the pressure on law enforcement intensified. Detectives publicly stated that D4vd remained a person of interest, which only deepened public suspicion. Yet they offered no solid evidence linking him to the scene. With every unanswered question, people began to fill in the blanks with their own stories. Online influencers began releasing documentary-style breakdowns, each claiming to have new information. One video even suggested that Aria had been trying to expose something in the music industry and that her death was not an isolated event. Within days, it reached millions of views, turning a tragedy into entertainment. Through it all, D4vd maintained his silence. His management team released a short statement that simply said, "David has nothing to hide and is cooperating fully." But that only seemed to make things worse. The lack of emotion in the message was seen by many as coldness. Former collaborators started coming forward, describing him as distant, controlled, and sometimes secretive about his creative process. One producer anonymously claimed that D4vd kept separate drives for every project and didn't let anyone near his raw files. To online sleuths, that became the seed of another theory, that he had something to conceal. Meanwhile, Aria's art began to take on new meaning. People found haunting parallels between her final works and her fate. Some of her last paintings showed figures half-formed, faces blurred, hands reaching out through fog. Her fans claimed she was expressing fear. A posthumous exhibit of her unfinished collection drew record crowds, most of whom came not for the art itself, but for the mystery behind it. As the months dragged on without an arrest, public interest shifted from sympathy to obsession. D4vd's streaming numbers rose dramatically. Every song he released before the tragedy was climbing the charts again, feeding into the twisted fascination surrounding him. People began to question whether the line between tragedy and fame had blurred beyond recognition. The louder the internet grew, the quieter the truth seemed to become. When it seemed the case had reached a standstill, a quiet breakthrough reignited the investigation. During a final sweep of Aria Kent's apartment, a small external hard drive was found wedged behind her desk. It was coated in dust and almost overlooked, but once examined, detectives realized it contained over 200 gigabytes of project files, videos, and personal notes. Among the folders was one titled Project D4, time-stamped just hours before her death. The discovery immediately caught attention, and digital forensic teams began examining its contents frame by frame. Inside were fragments of what appeared to be an experimental art project. Aria had been working on a collaboration that blurred the lines between music, emotion, and visual distortion. Each video clip showed strange transitions of light and sound, almost hypnotic in rhythm. In one file, she had filmed herself painting in a darkened studio, narrating softly about capturing the edge between fear and beauty. Midway through, the recording flickered and froze. For a few seconds, a faint, shadow-like figure could be seen moving in the background. It wasn't clear whether it was a trick of light or something else, but it immediately raised concern. Forensic analysts noticed that some of the footage had been tampered with. Metadata revealed that someone had accessed the files after Aria's death, attempting to erase or alter specific portions. The digital fingerprints led back to a shared production system once used by members of D4vd's creative team. When questioned, the team insisted that multiple people had access to that database and that backups were often synced automatically. Still, investigators couldn't ignore the timing. The deleted data had been altered within 24 hours of Aria's body being discovered. Further analysis revealed a single corrupted video file labeled Final Cut. It had been partially overwritten, but was recovered in fragments. In it, Aria appeared visibly anxious, pacing in front of her camera. She spoke quickly, her tone uneven, mentioning that it wasn't supposed to go this far. Then, the footage glitched violently, and the screen went black. Investigators believed someone had deliberately destroyed the rest. The discovery sent ripples through the case, suggesting that whatever happened on the night she died might be connected to her creative work. Detectives subpoenaed D4vd's management for access to their internal archives. They found several references to Project D4 within company emails, but no one seemed to know its full purpose. Some messages hinted that Aria AS concepts were too risky and that certain visual elements were emotionally unstable. There was mention of testing audio-visual frequencies that could induce altered emotional states, something Aria had been deeply fascinated by. To many, it sounded artistic. To investigators, it began to sound dangerous. Despite mounting suspicion, there was still no direct evidence linking D4vd to any foul play. He continued to stay silent, neither confirming nor denying his connection to the recovered footage. Behind the scenes, detectives debated whether Aria's death was the result of an experimental accident, deliberate harm, or something even more complex. Every clue seemed to lead to another question, every answer fading before it could be understood. The deeper they dug, the more elusive the truth became. By early 2025, the investigation had lost momentum. The evidence from the hard drive had stirred interest, but not enough to prove guilt or innocence. Weeks of interviews, digital tracing, and forensic analysis ended in circles. The Los Angeles Police Department released an official statement declaring that, due to lack of sufficient evidence, no charges would be filed in the death of Aria Kent. The report categorized her case as undetermined, leaving both the public and her family with more questions than answers. The world quickly learned the phrase, "no arrest," and it became attached to D4vd's name wherever it appeared online. When the news broke, D4vd resurfaced on social media after months of silence. His post was stark and minimal, a black background with white text that read, "Not everything broken needs to be fixed." It went viral instantly. Some interpreted it as grief, others as defiance. His comment sections filled with divided opinions. Supporters said it was the statement of someone wrongly accused and finally free from scrutiny. Critics called it insensitive and cryptic, the words of a man who had escaped justice. The silence that had once made him intriguing now made him frightening to some. Within weeks, D4vd returned to public life. He appeared at a small concert in New York, performing beneath dim red lights, saying nothing to the audience. Cameras captured every move, every expression, hoping to read guilt or innocence in his face. His first song of the night was an unreleased track called "Empty Frame," a slow and mournful composition that many believed was inspired by Aria. Lines from the song began circulating online, dissected for hidden meaning. Fans began to wonder if he was confessing through art again, or if the world was simply hearing what it wanted to hear. Meanwhile, journalists continued to investigate the gaps in the timeline. Independent researchers noticed inconsistencies in phone records from the night of Aria's death. There were brief signal drops, missing data entries, and unexplained gaps between pings that suggested a second device might have been involved. Some theorized that someone else had been in the apartment, a person never identified or mentioned in the police report. A few online investigators claimed to have footage of a shadowy figure leaving the building's back exit minutes after D4vd's car was seen driving away. The video was grainy and unclear, yet it revived the story once again. Aria's family spoke rarely, but maintained that they did not believe she took her own life. They questioned why certain digital files remained missing and why key details had been sealed from public record. Their persistence kept her name alive even as the case faded from headlines. To this day, the mystery hovers unresolved. As time moved forward, D4vd's reputation began to heal publicly, though never completely. His music continued to thrive, his shows sold out, and his audience grew. Yet behind his success, an unshakable shadow lingered. Every new release was followed by the same whisper that refused to disappear. Had he truly been cleared, or had the truth been buried with Aria Kent?